Hello, my name is Lakin and welcome to my channel. I hope you are having a fantastically whimsical day, and if not, hopefully this video makes your day a little bit better. So around the beginning of this year, I read Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson, and I filmed a buddy reading vlog with it. So I brought y'all along for the roller coaster that was reading my very first Brandon Sanderson book. And while I didn't expect to hate it, I didn't expect to love it as much as I did. So I was very pleasantly surprised when I did love it as much as I did. Brandon Sanderson has always been one of those authors that I know everyone loves, but I just thought he wasn't for me. I put him in the class of a little bit too high of fantasy that I would enjoy, because if it gets really too high into fantasy, I do get very confused, and then it's just not a fun time. But after reading Tress, I thought, why not give him another try, because so many of y'all left comments on that video saying books that I should read from him next and things like that. So in this video, we are doing just that. We're going to be reading 4 books from Brandon Sanderson to see if Tress of the Emerald Sea was a fluke or if I'm actually becoming a Brandon Sanderson fan. And I'm actually recording this while I'm editing because I realized my intro clip just turned out something messed up with it, so it's not usable. I won't give you any spoilers into this video, but I will let you know what books we are going to be reading. So the first book is going to be Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, and then we will be reading Elantris, which is one of his older works. We'll be reading Alcatraz versus the Evil Librarians, which is one of his middle grade series. And then closing out this video, we will be reading the first book in the Mistborn series, The Final Empire. So a lot of those books are books that were recommended to me, not the Alcatraz one, but I really enjoy middle grade, so we're putting that one in there. But a lot of people have recommended the Mistborn series. A lot of people recommended Yumi, specifically because it was written around the same time that Tress of the Emerald Sea was written. So the same writing style, the same feel almost. And then Elantris being one of his more older works to kind of get a more encompassing feel of his writing and how it's evolved and things like that. So yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into this and see if I actually become a Brandon Sanderson fan or if I fully stamp my fist in Tress of the Emerald Sea was a fluke and all his other books are trash. I started reading Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. I was gonna say by Brandon Sanderson, but this whole video is about Brandon Sanderson, so I think you kind of already know who this book is by. I'm listening to it with my partner. We're about an hour and a half of the way through it. So far, we're both enjoying it, both liking it. We're starting to kind of get a better grasp on the world and some of the mechanics, but we're still pretty new into it. Not much has happened, or at least not much that I know has happened. Maybe some of the stuff that has already happened will kind of build up into more, but so far not much right now. It has the same narrator as Tress of the Emerald Sea. I believe so. And my partner was able to identify some things that are references to other books, and he's saying oh, this is what this is, this is what this is. So, giving me all the insider gossip of what's going on, what's happening in this Cosmere.
But I am the one that noticed that our narrator is Hoyd, the same narrator as Trust of the Emerald Sea. Like, not just like voice actor wise, but like actual, like in the story, who's the same character. And apparently this time he is stuck, frozen in time, as a coat hanger inside a noodle shop. So I don't know how he got there. I don't know what he's doing, but he's stuck there. So I don't know how he got there or what he's doing, but when I realized that, I actually laughed out loud. It was very enjoyable to realize who it was and to kind of have my first connection to another book, which I'm sure is one of the big draws that people have when it comes to Brandon Sanderson, because all the worlds are in the same universe, even if they're not on the same world. So just having those things tie in together, I'm sure it's fun, because this one that I just experienced was fun. I just think it's funny that I noticed at first, you know, makes me the real fan of Brandon Sanderson, not Walter. He may have noticed like 3 others, but he didn't notice this one. So you know, he is the fake fan. Totally kidding. But yeah, hour and a half in, and we're enjoying it.
I may be a little bit distracted in this update because I realized I needed to update you, but I'm also playing with the cats. So, you know, I can do 2 things at once. I didn't actually think to look where I am before I updated this, and I don't want this to be super spoilery like the last Brandon Sanderson video, because since there's multiple books in this vlog, I don't want everyone to have had to have read all of these books. They're now like going back and forth between their 2 different worlds, and like one of them is corporeal and one of them is fully formed, and like they're kind of swapping bodies, which is really cool. I'm interested to see how it continues with their missions and like how they need to help save the ghosts. I don't think that's too much of a spoiler. If it is, so very sorry. But it's really enjoyable. I'm really enjoying more of the Yumi in his world versus him in her world, because she's getting to do things she's never gotten to do before, and it's way more fish out of water, which is fun. I'm enjoying it a lot. I've laughed out loud multiple times in this book, which it doesn't always happen. It's very slim that I'm able to laugh out loud in books, so I'm really enjoying that I am. So far, it's like a 3-4 star book, which for this being the second Brandon Sanderson book, I think that's so far so good. You know, maybe I've found my new favorite author. I'm more than halfway through the book now, and I think I have about 2 hours left. It's starting to speed up. It's starting to, like, pieces are falling together, and we finally know how they're connected. How Yumi and Painter are connected, and how their worlds are connected, and I'm enjoying all the pieces falling together. I'm just like really like soaking in the story. I don't really know what to say. It's just, I know I needed to like
pause listening on it so that way I could update you, because I just haven't wanted to update. I've just been wanting to listen to it, and I think I had that same feeling last time. I have no clue how this is gonna wrap up at all. But yeah, these like Yumi and Painter both feel like such in-depth characters. They both feel like the main character, and it doesn't feel like one is more important than the other. And I really appreciate that, because, you know, sometimes when there's multiple POVs, there can be like, there's multiple POVs, but we have the main POV. It doesn't really feel like that. It feels like we're like actually balanced in between the two. And I want to talk about the book more. I want to like go in depth with all the little things, but I also don't want to spoil it. So I'm not. I'm just going to say that we're starting to discover things. It's starting to come together. I just need to know how it ends. I need to know right now. I don't want to have to read this whole thing. I will, but that means I have to like wait like 2.5 hours. I don't want to do that. I just want to know it right now. But I'll be patient, and I'll read it like a good little reader. And hopefully the last little bit of this book does not disappoint, because right now it's a 4 or 5-star book.
The Great Dane, the Bull Mastiff, the Mastiff, the Tibetan Mastiff, the Neapolitan Mastiff.
Oh my goodness, this light is so bright. I'm using the my embroidery magnifying light. It's like a magnifying glass and a light, because I'm working on some embroidery right now. And I just flipped that around so that way I could film this update part, and it's very bright, you know, very well lit. Maybe a little too. I don't know. But I needed to talk to you about Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. I finished it. It was really good. I teared up in the end of the book. I really liked how it came together. I really like how it all tied in. How their worlds are connected is perfect. How just them coming together, and I don't know how to explain it without just like blurting things out. Hoyd, who was the narrator, he wasn't really that involved with the story at all. He is a coat rack for basically the entire book. He only gets coat ractified, however you want to say that, at like literally the very end. So he wasn't like as integral in this story as he was with like Tress in the Emerald Sea, how he was like on a part of the crew. But I don't think he needed to be there. I don't think we were really missing anything from him not being a part of it. I liked it. I think I'm going to give it 4 stars. It just doesn't feel like a 5-star to me, but it feels like a really good, solid story that I'm really happy I read. Maybe 4.5, but yeah. And I think the acknowledgements at the end and like the thanks whenever he was like thanking people at the end, talking about like he wrote this for his wife because his wife wants more romance in his books and things like that, and then he like said to like he thanked her specifically for allowing us to be able to read the story that he had written for her, which I thought was so cute and so sweet. Perfect. Oh my goodness. I thought that was more like heartwarming and stuff than like the book itself. But yeah, so I mean, so far pretty good with my Brandon Sanderson books.
So based off of the holds and when I can get the books and when I need to return the audiobooks that I've borrowed, the next book we're listening to is Alcatraz versus the Evil Librarians. It's a middle grade series, and I've started listening to a little bit of it while I'm working on a project, and it's reminding me a lot of, what is that book called? The Wizard's Apprentice, I believe. I can see the cover of the book I'm thinking of in my head, but I can't. I'll put it up on the screen, but it's giving me a lot of that book vibes, which I really enjoyed that series. So hopefully I'll enjoy this one as well. I enjoy a lot of middle grade, especially like middle grade fantasy. It's just so much fun to read, and it's so wacky, and my favorite ones are always the wackiest ones. So I already have high hopes for this one, way higher hopes than all the other books that I'm trying to read, mainly because I don't have to worry about being intimidated and not understanding what's going on. But yeah, so we're going to be listening to that, and I figured I'll go ahead and show you what I'm working on. So while I listen to the book, we are painting a Christmas hey, and then I'm currently sitting on the rest of the paper. There will also be a Christmas pua. This is a big door, like I'm gonna cut it out and put it on a door, so then that way it's a Christmas decoration, not for my house, but for where I work. I painted a few of these types of things last year, and so I'm going to be painting a few more to add to the collection, so then hopefully all the doors eventually will have some cute Christmas decor on them. I'm halfway through the book. It's not that long of a book, and I'm listening to it on 2x speed, so it's even faster. So we're still painting, but I'm really enjoying it. And he keeps cutting himself off and talking about himself as like, he's an author, this is a memoir, this is true, but like they're gonna say that it's fantasy and not real, but this is a memoir, it's not fiction, it's nonfiction, and this is what's really happening in the world. You gotta wake up, you gotta open your eyes, you gotta see it. Which I enjoy when things do that. And I do think it's a really good lesson for kids to become really aware at a young age, to not believe everything you're told. Do your own research. Don't just blindly accept things because someone said so. Look into it for yourself. I think that's really good information, especially with a lot of like dis or misinformation that pops up more and more. I think it's good to tell kids and remind people to look at things, think critically about it, and just because you've been told this doesn't mean it's true, especially with like history and just media propaganda and stuff like that. So I think this is a really good way of integrating that into a children's book without it being very much like, wake up. What you've been told about history is, it's the people who write history are the winners. And usually the winners are sometimes the bad guys, the oppressors, and stuff like that. So that's a long way of saying I appreciate the message, and I'm enjoying it. What I'm also enjoying is this guy hanging out with me as we continue to paint Hey Hey. We've gotten a little bit further, but not much.
I finished Alcatraz versus the Evil Librarians. I think I'm gonna give it, I think it's a 4-star book. I really enjoyed it, and I'm excited to continue the series. Definitely. I still haven't looked up the name of that other book. I'm pretty sure it's Magic Required, Wizard's Apprentice, Wizard Needed, something like that. I've already shown you the book, but you know, it definitely gives me those vibes. Throughout the entire book, him just like breaking up the story and being like, okay, remember, I'm writing this book, and this is why I'm a terrible person. And authors just like to torture people, and that's why they write, and stuff like that. It was just very, it had an air of fun throughout it. I do like the special talents and how like they did not seem like special talents when you first heard it. Like, our main character has the special talent of breaking things. It's like, okay, that's not, I don't know how that can be good. And then like his grandpa had the special talent of always arriving late. It's like, how's that a talent? How's that a skill that can be useful? And then like his cousin was able to like always tripped. That was his special talent. He tripped. And then the other one was like a special talent to say stuff and no one can understand. Like, he just speaks in like riddles and gibberish and stuff like that. But like throughout the book, you could see all those special talents being like, oh, that's actually really useful. Oh, that's a really good idea. That's really clever. That's a really interesting way to put a twist on it. So I really enjoyed it. We've now read 3 Brandon Sanderson books, and we will end on our final Brandon Sanderson book. Or at least for this video. I have a feeling I'm going to continue reading Brandon Sanderson books. I think I can already say that without like waiting till the end of the video and then be like, am I going to? Am I not? No, I think I am. I can officially say I'm a Brandon Sanderson fan, and I want to read more of his books. If not more of his adult books, which I definitely do, but definitely the Alcatraz versus the Evil Librarian series. I want to read more of that. So, you know, I'll have to read at least a little bit more Brandon Sanderson. But the final book for this video is going to be Elantris. Nope, that's not how you say it. Elantris. Elantris. Cilantro. Elantris. By Brandon Sanderson. Walter has this book physically, and so when it was warmer, we would go sit outside in the morning when we just woke up to kind of just enjoy the day. And when he would go out there with me, we would read the book aloud together. So I got to where I was like maybe 50 pages in of that book before, but it started getting colder, so we stopped going out. And then also we just picked up other books we wanted to listen to. We're both not very good with physical reading. We both prefer and have an easier time with it being accessible for audiobooks and not physical books. So I've read a little bit of this, but not a lot. But I have found the graphic audio version of Elantris. I'm interested to read that version. If you don't know what a graphic audio is, whenever I say that, I think it means like, you know, super graphic and violent and gory and like, you know, just like full of foul language and stuff like that. It's graphic, but it just means that it's a full cast reading the book, and there's background noise, there's sound effects, there's music. It's like a full-on auditory movie, essentially. So it's kind of like, you know, how they would do shows back before TV was invented, just on the radio. So I'm excited for that. Hopefully it all works out that way. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and dive into it. And I also finished the painting I was working on while I was reading Alcatraz versus the Evil Librarians. So I'll pop up after this clip a little clip of what that looks like as once it's all hung up. I'm happy with how it turns out, but also like as I was hanging it up, I saw some obvious things that I'm like, there are things I forgot, wasn't paying attention to, and just kind of, you know, it's not 100% perfect, which I'll just have to be okay with because it's already hanging up. I can't fix it anymore. So yeah, I'll put that up so that way, you know, in case you were dying to know what it looked like, there you go. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into Elantris.
So I started reading Elantris at work. This is actually like the perfect book with what the current project I'm working on, because I can just kind of do the project I'm working on mindlessly, because it's just counting and inventorying. So this type of audiobook is really good for that. So with that being said, I've already listened to the first third of the book. Graphic audio, like, things, whatever. It's divided into, like, 3 different parts. So it's technically, like, 3 books I have to download. So I've already listened to the first one. I was really worried at the beginning that I wasn't going to be able to listen to this because the music in the background was so loud and like all the other stuff was so overwhelming that I was like, I don't know if I can fully understand what the narrator is saying. And so I was getting worried because I was like, I don't have any other books like scheduled. Like I'm gonna have to wait a really long time to get the regular Elantris book from like Libby, because I'm getting this from Hoopla. So I was like, oh no, this is not gonna be good. But I listened to it a little bit longer and I slowed it down. So normally I listen at 2 times speed, listening to it a lot slower, and I'm able to understand it now and I'm able to enjoy it and have fun with it. It's definitely a movie in my head, which I enjoy. And it's also weird to be listening to a book that's not narrated by Hoyd. I mean, I know the Alcatraz one wasn't narrated by Hoyd, but that's a middle grade book. This one is an adult fantasy book, and so the other adult fantasies that I've read from him have both been narrated by Hoyd. So it's very interesting to not be, but I think this is one of his, if I'm remembering correctly, this is one of his earlier works, so I guess it makes sense. It's not bad, it's just interesting and weird. So far, I'm enjoying it. I think the main characters are so charming and endearing. I'm loving all of it. I'm interested to see how the Sheod, I think that's what it's called, like where they've turned into Elantrians, but it's like a curse now. I'm interested to see like how that turns out. Like, are they gonna get cured? I can't imagine just like ending this book and they're all still like diseased essentially. So I hope they get cured, and all the super heavy religious elements of like this over-oppressing like religion is fascinating as well. It's giving me lots of Hunchback of Notre Dame, the evil villain in that movie. It's giving me lots of him vibes. So, you know, that's fun. But yeah, Rowan and I can't remember the other characters' name, but they're so cute. I like them. I don't know. I want it to work out. I want them to be happy. So we'll see. We'll see. I still got like 2/3 of the book. So I don't know how much I'll get to listen to during my next shift. Maybe I'll come back and it's only 2 update clips for this book. But so far so good. I have lots of questions. that I need to be answered, and it's all revolving around Elantris.
I'm on my break at work, and I just finished the second part. So we have 1/3 left of the book to go. So for the people who have read it, I'm going to say some things that hopefully will let you know where I am in the book, but there won't be like spoilers for people who haven't read it. But the very ending of the second part was the eclipse party that she had one of the like guys host, so that way she could follow the king and figure out where he's going and what he's doing, and she has discovered what that is, and I was not expecting that. I was like, oh, okay. And then also the priest, who's like really like super hard, has realized that a lot of people within the priesthood have like turned against him or like aren't as loyal to him. And so it looks like he imposed it on himself, but I can't tell if like it was just a coincidence. But he's now, basically he's inside the walls, he's inside the city of Elantris and just praying to get out, essentially. That part's a little confusing to me, but we've discovered more about like Elantris itself and like more of like the magic stuff, and it's starting to fit into place of like, oh, what could have possibly gone wrong. So my brain is turning to try to figure out what's going on, and especially with the king doing what he did, I have even more like theories churning. Hopefully they work out and I'm correct. If not, I'm enjoying myself reading this. So yeah, so far I'm probably gonna give the book, this may be a 5-star. If this this last third lands it home and like keeps it strong, this may be a 5-star read. So fingers crossed for that. I finished Elantris. I'm gonna give it a 4.5. So it didn't come out on top with it being a 5-star. The ending was it didn't fully land with me. It was still up there. It was still pretty good. Almost there at a 5. The main thing that got me was the final battle, essentially. It was very confusing, and some of the things mentioned, I was like, wait, what's going on? How's that working? It was a lot more confusing. My partner, who has read Elantris, but it's been so long since they've read it that they couldn't like answer my questions. They couldn't like help me understand it. So I think that's what kind of hindered what hindered it from being like a total 5-star read. But also this is one of like Brandon Sanderson's earlier works. So is when he was maybe still working on his craft. I mean, technically all writers are always working on their craft, but different skills can be attained and things like that. So, but there was a happily ever after for our two main characters, which I was getting worried there for a second that we weren't going to have like an actual happy ending. We were going to have like a semi-happy ending. But no, we had an actual happy ending that I was really happy with. I wish we could have kind of seen more of the end, like after the battle and after everything's won, like what their life is like now. I wish we could have kind of seen just a little bit more of that and a little bit more of how they're restructuring the government and making it is what it is and what they like strive for it to be, and how they're fixing all the strife and prejudice that was embedded through the harmful actions of the religion and the priesthood or whatever. So I wish we could have seen more of that, but we didn't. I guess we just have to assume that it all worked out. It's all comfy cozy, all grand. I will say, and this is not on the book, this is on the audiobook. Me listening to the graphic audio, the fight scenes were also not well balanced with the background noise and the narrator. It started to sound like it did in the very beginning, where it was the background noise was a lot louder than it probably should be, and it muddled essentially the narrator and the other characters' voices, which I know if you're in a battle, it's going to be hard to hear stuff because you got all that racket going on. But this is an audiobook, you know? I would like to understand what's going on. So I do wish they had fixed that just a little bit. The only real complaint, but that's not a complaint of the book. That's a complaint of the format in which I chose to listen to it. But other than that, like the very beginning and the very end were not well audio balanced. But other than that, this was a really fun and enjoyable way to listen to it. And it kind of helped because there's so many characters with all these different names that like since they all had different voices, I was able to be like, oh yeah, this is this person. Even though I don't know your name, I recognize your voice, so I know who you are. I can keep all the characters straight. And I was going to end the video off here, but Walter told me if I didn't read Mistborn in this video, he would be disappointed, and a bunch of Brandon Sanderson fans would be disappointed. And I do remember that book was one of the books recommended to me in the comments of the first Brandon Sanderson video. So we're going to continue this video and read not all of Mistborn, not the entire series, but just book 1. He's convinced that I'm going to fall in love with this book and it's going to be one of the best ones I've ever read. That's how he feels. And a bunch of other people that I've seen are also like, they say that this is the best Brandon Sanderson book that they've read. And so I think it would just be a disservice not to read it in this video. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into Mistborn. By who? By Brandon Sanderson.
By Brandon Sanderson. For Beth Sanderson, who's been reading fantasy for longer than I've been alive, and fully deserves to have a grandson as loony as she is. Mistborn. Sometimes I worry that I'm not the hero everyone thinks I am.
So we're on the way to Disney World, and we're listening to Mistborn. We're a couple hours into the book. We've just seen the scene where we like fully see the magic system at work with all the metal pulling and pushing with Kelsig. Is that our main character's name? I believe so. But with him. So if you've read the book, you might know what I'm talking about. Like the first real time that we see the stuff coming together because they need more Altium, which is one of the like expensive metals, because they need it for their heist, I believe. But so far so good. I mean, it's not that impressive. I don't love it. I don't hate it. It's a very enjoyable book to listen to on the road together. So Walter is convinced that I will fall in love with this book. So hopefully I will. He says the story gets way more interesting the further we get into it. And I do appreciate listening to this book while he's right here, so I can pause it and, ask all the questions I need. Because some of the stuff I've already need to ask questions, which is the first Brandon Sanderson book that I've been confused. Well, I was confused with Elantris with some of the ending stuff, but I couldn't ask anyone. So, but this is from the get-go, already being confused.
So we're here at Disney, as you can see. Very, very excited. But that's not what this video is about. Update on the book. We're over halfway through the book. And I'm very intrigued. I have questions. A lot of questions. Not like that are
things I'm confused about, but questions is like, you know, when you have normal questions within a story, like, what's going on? Why is this happening? Blah, blah, blah. And you'll find out as the story unfolds. So I have lots of questions specifically around the High Lord, or like the god. And I've noticed this book and Elantris both have, and sort of also with Yumi, there's a lot of corrupt religion, which I find really fascinating and interesting. I love a good corrupt religion. Not in real life, but in stories. We're in the, Walter called it the Bridgerton era of the book, where Vin is going to a lot of balls and hanging out with the noble people more. Which is very interesting, seeing them interact with the higher class people and then kind of having conflicting feelings about like, these people are good. They don't view like that, but yet the noble people are the ones contributing to the oppression and the abuse of essentially her people, the ska. So it's very, I'm liking the commentary. I'm intrigued where the story is going, but Walter did inform me that this book, I might not like the ending, because I like endings, even if it's a series of books. I like it when a book is complete and it wraps up an entire story, and like it can have some entrails that continue on to the next one, but not the main bulk or like the main plot of the story. Like that thing, the main plot needs to be finished in the singular book. So he said I might not like this if he remembers correctly how it ends. It's good to know that now, so that way it doesn't hurt the star rating when it comes as a surprise. There's lots of gross parts in this book as well. The steel people that have nails in their eyes, how I described that was really gross. When the steel people like go and attack people and describing what they've done to them, it's kind of brutal. So this is like the first Brandon Sanderson book that I've literally been like, ugh, I don't want to hear that. That's gross. But we did meet Hoyd, so I got to see a little sneak peek of Hoyd. It didn't sound like the same person. I know the narrator's the same, but it didn't sound like the person who was the character who was interacting didn't feel like Hoyd, but also that person, he could have just been in disguise, or he was in disguise, I'm assuming. It was good to see him for like 2 seconds. Probably won't be doing much listening to it on the trip, but we'll probably be able to finish it on the ride back. It may be the first book that I finish in the new year.
I finished Mistborn. I've been calling it Mistborn. It's not actually called Mistborn. It's called The Final Empire, but it's Mistborn Book 1. We were able to finish it through waiting in lines and like waiting for fireworks and stuff like that while we were at Disney World. So I actually finished it. I finished it waiting on the bus right after the New Year's Eve fireworks at Epcot. So technically it's the first book I finished in 2025, even though I listened to maybe 40 minutes of it in 2025 and the majority of it was 2024. But it's fun to have my first book of 2025 checked off. I think I'm gonna give this book a 3.75. It just doesn't feel right to give it a 4, especially when I think about the other Brandon Sanderson books that I've given a 4. It just doesn't fit with that one, but it doesn't necessarily fit with the other books that I usually give a 3, which I don't normally have this conundrum of like, where do I put this book? What do I rate it? And so this book was a little tricky in that front, but 3.75 final rating. The book did not end where my partner thought it ended, so we did. I'm not mad with the ending, like he thought I was gonna be. One thing I've noticed with reading a bunch of Brandon Sanderson books back to back is he does a lot of build up, and then when he finally gets to the point and the action and like the stuff, it's like at the very end of the book, and he does that in pretty much every book. So it's a little annoying. And I don't know if it's annoying because I've just been reading so much Brandon Sanderson in this short period of time, so I'm like seeing this happen over and over again, or if it's just like that style in general. I don't know. I feel like it may be because I'm reading so much in a short time span that has the same flow of like, for the first 12 hours, it's good, but like we don't really have all the pieces together for it to like fully connect and like feel super like exciting until that very like last hour and a half, where it's like, I don't know how you're fitting that much information and that much story in that time span, whenever it feels like that's more story and more stuff than what took 12 hours. It was good. I enjoyed it. I'm already listening to the second one. I'm not gonna post about it in this video because we could just continue on and on with Brandon's backlog, but I'm not gonna do that. So I'm already listening to the second one, and we listened to that on the way back home from vacation. So I'm definitely interested to see where Vin's story goes, and I was very surprised by some of the endings in the first Mistborn book. I won't give spoilers, but I wasn't expecting some of the things, and I do appreciate how we finally learned more about like the Steel Inquisitors. I think they're very interesting, and also just the Lord Ruler himself and how he was the Lord Ruler. It felt a lot like kind of in The Wizard of Oz when they go and see the great and powerful Oz and then they discover things about him. It kind of felt like that, which I enjoyed. But other than that, like I said before, I'm pretty sure it's safe to assume I am a Brandon Sanderson fan now, and I'm happy to have more of his stories to go back to. I don't know. The next one that people want me to read is the Way of Kings series. I don't know if I'm gonna read that one. Based off of things I heard, I do still think I won't enjoy that series. I'm happy that I'm able to not fully write off all of his books as things that might be too over my head, too advanced. But I did appreciate having Walter there, so that way we could, while we were waiting in line or while we were driving, pause it and be like, okay, what is that? What just happened? That was very, very helpful. So maybe everyone who is uncertain about Brandon Sanderson just needs to have a Brandon Sanderson fan that can just walk you through the book, can buddy read the book with you. So that way you have questions answered in real time. But yeah, so we finally answered the question, am I actually becoming a Brandon Sanderson fan? And the answer is yes. Happily, yes. So if you've been putting off reading some of his work because you thought that it might not be for you, maybe this video will inspire you to give it a try. Or if you have read tons more of his books, definitely give me recommendations based off of like my thoughts of these books, what books you think I would like. But yeah, we can talk about it all in the comments below. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you I hope you're having a fantastic day, and if not, I hope this video made your day a little bit better, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!